It is not necessary to suffer for art. Stay with me and I'll tell you why.
Simply Painting is underwritten by Winsor & Newton, makers of Cotman watercolors and paintbrushes, manufacturers of fine art materials since 1832.
Welcome everyone once again to Simply Painting. I'm Frank Clarke. I'm in Sugarbush, Vermont, in the Common Man restaurant. Now the proprietor, Mike Ware, is kind enough to give me this lovely bowl of fruit. But I'm not going to eat it yet, not till after dinner. First we're going to sketch it, and then when I'm finished and we go back to the studio, we're going to paint a little still life from it. So why don't you join me? Hello there, and welcome to my studio back here in Dublin. Well, I hope you enjoyed the Common Man restaurant and that beautiful raging fire, wasn't it lovely? And the fruit, yes. Well, this is what we did. We ate some, and what we'd left, we made up a little composition, and this is what we've painted. It's called a still life. So why don't you join me over here and we'll get at it. Come on. Now, the wonderful thing about still life is, of course, that you go to the local supermarket, you buy the fruit, you make a nice bowl out of it. When you finish painting it, you can eat it. So it's kind of a dual purpose thing, isn't it? But make sure they don't eat it before you're finished, of course. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get on about these materials quickly, and then we can get back to painting. First, we need all the tubes, the whole lot, all 8 of them this time. So let's start off with raw sienna, titanium white, burnt umber, cadmium yellow, phthalo green, ultramarine, vermilion, and permanent rose. They're the whole lot. Even if we don't need one of them, it doesn't matter. You're getting used to it now, aren't you? Next, we have the 3 brushes, and the first one it's the large brush. It's an acrylic brush. It's got bristle hair, and be careful of that when you're buying it. Make sure it's a bristle hair one you ask for, not a goat hair, bristle hair. There it is. That's the first one, and that's used for 90% of the picture. Next, we have the middle-sized brush, and this time we've got a number 4 filbert. Again, it's bristle hair. And the third one, this is a rigger. It's a number 3 rigger made of nylon. They are 3 brushes. Next we have a nice big palette, and it's made of plastic, and you can wash it. Incidentally, to get this paint off afterwards, if you just put a little hot water on, it'll just disappear. Great for cleaning. Water to keep your brushes wet, cloths to keep them dry, so you wet them and dry them. And the last thing we have, of course, is our canvas panel, and this time it's measuring, now the inside measurement there is 14 by 10. This, in fact, is a 16 by 10, and I've stuck some tape around. I'll show you why later. In landscape, it's longwise, and enough about that. That's it. Let's have a look at the picture now. And the first thing we look at is, where is the horizon line? Well, my goodness me, horizon, sky, middle, and foreground. There's very little difficulty in this picture figuring where the horizon is, isn't there? It's as obvious as the nose on your face, as they say. So let's start off by doing that. Let's put out some, this time let's put out some raw sienna. Be different, raw sienna paint. Now the reason I do that is I could use any colour, but I'm using raw sienna because if we look back to the picture, you'll see why. Because I don't want a big blue stripe across the middle of the picture, that's all. Now, where is that horizon line? It is never halfway up or halfway down the picture. It's always a little bit below it, so I'm going to assume that it's about there, just below halfway. See? There's more on top than there is in the bottom. That's it. Next, let's put out some more paint. We need the paint now to paint the background. What we do is put in the background first. So we put out our, there we are, vermilion. That's the fella we want. So we got white, vermilion, plenty of it, don't be afraid of it, and put it well away from the other one. Don't put the paints too close together. The brush will stick into the 2 of them at the one time, and you'll have a mess. Yeah. And the last colour we need out now is burnt umber. Let's put out some of that. Now we got all these paints out. Let's have a look back at our picture and see what we're going to do next. Now, look back to the picture here. And we see we have some apples and some grapes. Or are they? They're circles to me. That's all they are. Let me take some whatever colour you like. Take some of the burnt umber. We'll just outline where this whole thing is. Now, once again, you don't centre your point of interest. In other words, you don't pick the middle point there and put the plate each side of it. It's slightly to the left, isn't it? So the plate starts about there somewhere, and it goes over that way. Look, it's all it is. Look, it's a kind of a sausage, isn't it? Keep going round till our sausage begins to look like a plate. Do you see it? Does it go over a bit further that way? It does. Enlarge it. Don't be afraid. This is your picture. Do what you like with it. Look, I'm going leedly doodly. It's all the world like a big frankfurter. Is that what you call it? Yes. Now, let's look and see where these apples are. So we got one apple, or one circle. Always, if you base your fruit on something you already, there's one circle, see it? And now, on the other side, look to the picture again. The other side, we got two, because we've got some grapes in the middle, see that? Now, once again, don't make them all the same size, the apples. They're all different, and they overlap. You know what I mean by that? Look, the other apple, it's been a bigger apple there. That goes that way. Now, we've got 1, 2, 3 circles, and this oblong fellow. Now, the next thing is, let's put in some grapes. Look, and these are like, very much like little circles, aren't they? And they overlap. You know what I mean by that? In other words, you don't have them, one doesn't join onto the next like a string of pearls, if you like. They're all over the place. Please yourself. I'll have this picture finished before I know where I am. Now, sometimes you find that some of the pictures you're doing can take a little more time, and you notice that I have to speed up and slow down and do all kinds of lovely things. Now, we've got a couple more down. We've got one. Do you see that one there? It's fallen off the plate. You ever notice when you bring home the grapes, there's always one or two. I'm just going to put them there somewhere. They're just to add a little character to the picture. There we are. So to recap very quickly, because now it becomes painting by numbers, 1, 2, 3 circles. This long, oblong shape and a whole lot of little ones. But you overlap them. Do you understand that? You happy with that? Okay. Now, let's dry it. Because if I don't, what'll happen? I'll rub it out and I go over them. There we are. Now you can take your time with this. You could actually, if you wanted to compose this picture your own way, do you know what you could do? You could practice this on a piece of paper. And then when I'm gone, and you've got all the time in the world to do it, then you can get stuck into it. Right, I'm making up the background colour. And if you look back again, once more to the picture, you see that it is a reddy brown colour. So how would you make up reddy brown? Well, you'll use red, and you use brown, and you use a bit of the yellow. Those three. And off we go. And mix it till you see you can check it. That's all right, isn't it? See that? All over the place down. Now, you're going to go over because otherwise, don't bother going right around them, because as a matter of fact, you can see through it. See, I can see what's underneath that. This can be a blessing. It can also be a curse, because you're trying to cover the page, aren't you? Not see what's underneath it. Yeah, it's fine. Now that might be a bit darker, but that's no harm. Because I think, if anything, we could have been a bit darker. Wouldn't do it a bit of harm. Now you see some brush marks, and now we just remember what we did with the landscape, just line it ever so slightly. See that? Yeah. Now I'm taking a bit of just red by itself. I just want to lighten a little bit on this side here. Good idea is to let it dry a bit before you start this caper, as they say. Now I'm adding yellow and white, which of course will lighten it. You see that? Because I don't want both sides of this picture the same. And then just line it again. Tiny bit. I leave a few brush strokes. Don't be too keen on having it flat, flat, flat. It's not a wall you're painting. Now, I'm now going to look at this horizon line again, and you see it's about there. So I'm going to put that in. Now I'm using, in this case, some of the yellow, a tiny bit of the red, and a good bit of the white, because it's a nice bright area here. See, I'm going to go around my plate. Do you see him? And as we get to the far side, you'll see it'll get a bit darker. I mean, it's not all the one colour. That's the point I'm trying to make to you. And don't try and make it the one colour. We go around these. Don't need to go around these grapes. We can go over them because they'll show through. Now we're getting it. See? Now, as we get this side, we're going to make it a bit darker. Now, how would we do that? Well, we'd add in some of the brown, wouldn't we? So that the horizon line on the far side here is quite dark. See that? Because it's in shadow, isn't it? Light's coming from here. So we make it a bit darker. You know, it's all kinds of nice waves of the brush. It's great fun doing this. A little bit of the, by not putting in as much yellow, we get a darker colour. We add in the yellow, of course, it brightens it up a bit. Now we're going to start lightening it, because on this side it needs to be a bit lighter. For the reason that I said, that it's in light. Now, a sensible thing that we might do at this stage is give it a bit of a dry, because we've been bashing away. There's paint flying in all directions here, and it does need a bit of a dry, doesn't it? So let's give it a dry. Come on, get out or go and have a cup of coffee. See you in a minute. Now give it a real good dry there, but you'll find, and when it happens, when you dry it, you begin to see all the lights and the darks. Now, to get rid of that, what do? Give it another coat. So let's do that very rapidly, because time's a wasting. We don't want to be. You can see this coat will do the job, and we can concentrate more on our shading, can't we? See, that's a good dark side over there. The dark side of the moon. Dark side of our picture, because that's what it is. It's in a bit of shadow, and the same thing there. And as we're painting in acrylics, it doesn't really matter whether we go light to dark or dark to light. You can do whatever you like. It doesn't make any difference. It's your choice. I would be more inclined to paint the light first and then darken it in this case, but that's up to you. As I say that to you, I'm doing it the other way around, haven't I? So he's talking about doing light to dark, and what's he doing? The other way around. I'm going to put in some nice light colours here now. Yeah. So our little, see, we can feed it out there. Yeah, we're getting it. And I think on that horizon line, we need to get it nice and light. Look up at your picture again. You'll see that right on the horizon is really quite light. See that? Now we can put some shadows. Now the same thing would apply, because obviously if that's our light source there, we need to put that a bit lighter. The right-hand corner, just lighten it down a little bit. Not too much, just a little bit. Now we're going to get at the fruit. I think we've enough of that done now. Let's get at the fruit. How about that? Okay. Ready, steady, go. Back in with that brush, back out with the other one. Now, let's put in the background colour first. And the first background colour we want to look at is, we want to put out some blue, because we're going to make up some green, aren't we? Green apples. An apple a day keeps the doctor away, isn't that what they say? And we'll also put out some of that phthalo green, because apples, I'm trying to be that colour. I'm going to pull my sleeve up a bit, otherwise I could end up with a blue sleeve, yes. Which my wife doesn't like all that much, not on a pink jumper or something. Now, in goes the apples. Look, all I'm doing is I'm following the circle. For goodness sake, tonight you can't do this. You've probably realised by now that we're all artists. We're all art in some form or description. And this, you see, it's a great thing about painting is that if you decide to take up pottery, you've got to paint your pottery. Well, it's a good thing to be able to know how to, just to apply the paint, mix your colours. So it's never wasted on you. It's never wasted, this wonderful hobby of ours. Now, the last one of those, I'm going to just take a third brush, which is the same brush again, it just happens to be an old one. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to let the other one soak for a minute, because the last one is a red apple. See it? I'm just putting the main shape in. And it's overlapped by the other one. You see that? And make sure you go right out to the edge. See? So we got the 3 apples in now, haven't we? Next, the grapes. Swish it around. And the grapes, of course, are... The phthalo green is a good man for the grapes. And you can add in the tiniest little bit of yellow. That gives you a nice, kind of a grape colour. If you feel that that's too much, then you just add in a little more of the yellow. Trying to find out where these grapes are. Now, there they are. We can shape them up later, you know. We leave little black pieces between them. Do you know why? Because, of course, they're not all, you know. Now, it's a good idea, once again, for you just to dry all this before you start this performance, because otherwise you might pick up some of the colour from underneath. Do you know what I mean by that? Of course you do. See where the grapes are arriving now? They're kind of appearing out of nowhere. Why don't I put this fella in, because this fella will probably need a couple of coats, so we'll prepare him for it. See, they fell off the plate. Right. Put them down there. Take out the other fella who's been soaking quietly and minding his own business. So now it's his turn. So a bit of brown, a bit of white. And just dry the brush well. Now we want to outline this plate first. See it? It goes there, it goes round like that. See it? Then it comes out here, doesn't it? And out there. Do you know why we're putting the dark on first? Because I want to see where the nice highlights will be going. Because this plate is half in darkness and half in light, isn't it? Yeah, there. And we're only just following the lines that are there already. It's not, we're not having no big deal about it. See it? Now it's all beginning to kind of half look like something that should be, isn't it? Something that should be a nice still life. Now I'm going to give that a little dry again. So just for a quick tick, bear with me. Now I think we're getting there. One thing about still life painting is that you must layer your paints on. Do you know what I mean by that? Well, we've put a coat on, haven't we? Now we're going to put another one on to kind of fill up and make it look more alive, if you like. Now, this time we're going to paint in the shape of the apple. If the apple is that way, that's the way we're going to paint. Do you understand that? Look, it goes round like that, because that's how an apple looks. This is a dark green apple, and it goes in there like that. And then the fella in the front is a somewhat brighter apple, so we have to, again, around like that, see him? Because that's the shape you're making, isn't it? Now, nice. See, they're going to look a bit more like an apple now. And, of course, the red fella at the back, well, he has to be, I'll have to darken him down a bit on one side there, because I've got a big chunk of paint on there, but that's all right. No harm at all. Don't be afraid of putting paint on. Paint's cheap. And I think we're going to add a bit of green into him there, because he does kind of change a little bit on this side here. See? Now, we still haven't highlighted any of these. You know what I mean by that? We haven't put the little bits of white on. So let's start with our grapes. And the first thing we must do, oh, I tell you what, how about using some of our medium? Yes, this is a great lad, this fella. This is a medium. It's called a flow improver. You can dip your thing. And it actually does exactly that. It improves the flow of the paint. I don't know if I told you about, I suppose the father of all this kind of painting, this one-go job and loose, fun painting, was probably Vincent van Gogh. You heard of him, didn't you, the poor man? Well, I think it was Camille Pissarro once said of him, he'll either go mad or he'll pass us all out. And unfortunately, that's exactly what he did in both cases. He passed everybody out, but he went mad in the process. Poor man shot himself. You know how many pictures he sold? So you'd be talking about, you'd be worrying about selling a few pictures. While he was alive, he sold none. His brother, Theo, used to give him paint and that, and then used to pay him for pictures, but he didn't actually sell pictures at all. Of course, nowadays, I think his last picture sold for, was it 35 million pounds? 35 million pounds? Unbelievable. That poor man couldn't sell a picture when he was alive. So there's hope for us. So I'm glad to say I've sold more pictures than Vincent van Gogh. And I have no intention of shooting myself, not in the cause of art anyway, because it's too much fun, isn't it? Now let's put in some stalk. A stalk goes here. Just stick it out that way, right? Now while you're doing that, might as well put in the apple stalk, and it goes that way. But then if it goes that way, we want to put another one here. We want to make it put the opposite direction. Don't have them all going the one way. You can actually add a little leaf in if you like too. What I mean by that, look, you could actually, let's see, where we put this leaf? On that. Now we let it dry and then we'll highlight it. See, the leaf. You know the way you often buy an apple and there's a leaf on it. It's just kind of show that it's fresh, I suppose. So little by little now, you see the way we're going to have to now darken one side of some of these grapes because they are a little bit, because obviously if there's one side in sunlight, there should be another side in shadow. See? I don't know if I like that colour very much. Now where's me green? There it is. Get some of that. Get some of the white. Mix the two together. Put a bit of the yellow in it. And a bit of the blue. And we make a nice green. Ah, that's a better green, isn't it? Yeah. You don't be afraid to experiment. Yeah, a little bit there. Don't overdo this. It's not. You've got to put in some nice dark bits in the middle as well. See, I'm foostering around now a little bit, but I'm enjoying myself. Now the next thing is I'm going to put some highlights on the apple. Do you know what I mean by that? Well, I'll show you. Light source coming this way, so therefore this part of the apple, you see, it should be nicely in sunlight. It's lit up. And I suppose there should be lit up as well on this apple because the sun is, or the light is coming past it there, you see? Now the back one wouldn't have very much light in it at all because it's pretty obscured. But I tell you what has light on it. The plate. I'm going to bring this plate to life. Now I'm going to put a little bit of raw sienna with this just to see how. Now we go around the outside of this circle. See that? That's the plate, isn't it? See, it's up there. Now it goes a bit that way, but then as it gets towards the end here, of course, it's not, the light's disappearing, isn't it? It's only hitting there and there. See that? Now we've got to put some good dark stuff inside that, because if that's light, so also will this be dark. Keep playing with this till you get it right. Do you know what I mean by that? Like that might be a bit crooked there, so you want to put a bit of a more circle in it. See that? Now see where the plate's appearing. Come on, say yes. Plate's appearing. Now we have to get a little bit of, I'll tell you what we have to do. Oh, look. What were these? They're little shadows coming out from the back of our grapes, aren't they? Because, of course, the light's hitting that way. I've got a couple of little twirly things there to go as well. We'll worry about that later, huh? I'm going to do a couple of quick things with this now. First is, of course, we're going to get the bird right this time. We weren't as rushed this time. On some of the pictures, we can be quite rushed, well, can't we? There's our wee birdie. Always put him in. And the next thing is, do a bit of writing. Always sign your still lifes fairly well up on the picture. And now let's start tearing here. Look at this. I enjoy doing it. This is very handy Because if you're going to frame this in a great big frame, you don't do this. I put these tapes on, I find that they give me a great perspective of how the picture works. Look at that, we just rip it off. And we got to say to you that that's all for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed the still life. And remember, try it out, because you too can have some more fun simply painting.